How's it going, everyone? I'm a Friendly Tree, and today I want to talk about upcoming changes and I guess my wish list for Nina in Tekken 7. So, as you can see on the screen at the moment, Bandai Namco, or one of the official Twitters of theirs, has posted that there will be an update coming on the 18th of August. So, with that in mind, we know there are some balance changes coming, we know there are some new moves coming, and I thought this would be a good opportunity just to talk about what I would like to see for the character moving forward. I do want to stress that I'm pretty happy with the character as a whole. I'm pretty happy using Nina in the game, and I'm not making this video with the intention of complaining about anything. More than anything, I just want to explain what I would like and I guess explain the reasoning behind it. And before we get into that, I just want to talk a little bit about the history of what I've done. So if you remember back in, I think it was in January 7th, here we go, Michael Murray tweeted, if you guys are serious about about wanting to be heard about certain wants and needs for the characters, create a constructive thread somewhere and moderate it. And I'll ask the battle director to take a look. So that was all fine and well, and of course a number of us did this. I did the approach through the Nina character Discord, where I created a new channel for people to discuss it, and I collected all of the requests that every character had, and I did multiple polls. So I made sure that everyone was invited, and I was looking at narrowing it down to a top 5 changes for Nina in patch 3.2. If you want to read this twit longer, I'll have a link in the About section. After we'd narrowed it down from how far did we go? We got more than 40 requests. Yeah, and then the top 15 were processed along with any additional requests during this time period, and then we had a total of 22 requests. And now this was for season 3, of course, and the top 5 requests were stop the second hit of back 1+4 whiffing, so draw them in or move Nina forward. I'm sure you've had that frustration before. Make down back 3 less pushback on hit, and increase the horizontal hitbox on down forward 2. Then we had while running 1+2 and rage drive to not get floated by lows. So perhaps the first frame vulnerable to lows could be the first active frame, or have a hit by a low while grounded in pre-active frames but not floated. And then we had a tie for 5th. It was give 1+4 more reward on a crouching opponent, similar to Hachi's forward 4 or Julia's down forward 1. So to explain that, both those moves, if they had a crouching opponent, likewise with Kazuya's forward 4 when he's in devil form, give a guaranteed follow-up. It's for Hachi and Julia, it's +13, giving Julia a number of different options, giving Hachi a down forward 1-2. And for Kazuya, he was actually getting a free 15 frame after. I think it's +17, isn't it? Devil Kazuya. And the number 5 was wanting down 3, down 4 to return. So these were what the community requested back in January. Obviously, opinions change over time, requests change a lot, and that's perfectly fine. So what is depicted here is not necessarily what the community would want at this point in time, and I don't think anybody's complaining about what we got in Season 3 for Nina. There are a few questionable things, I suppose, but overall we're pretty happy and we think that she was made a stronger character because of it. Or I can say for myself, I believe she was. Changes like the back 2-2, the side step 4 and the down back 3 buffs, they're really good. Anyway, so a little bit more of an explanation of this. So stop the second hit of back 1+4 whiffing, draw them forward. If you know with Julia's down forward 2-1, when the first hit connects, the character comes closer to you, meaning that if the first hit connects, the second hit always connects. And I think that's a big frustration with Nina's reverse Ivory cutter, especially if you see the first hit connect and then the second hit whiff, because the second hit has more range and more tracking than the first hit. Likewise, sometimes you can have the first hit connect and the second hit be blocked, which makes no sense because the opponent can't even turn around, they can't correct position. If they're hit, that should not be possible. So that's something that would be very nice to be fixed, especially with the risk in the move and how little reward you get from the 4 damage starter. Down back 3 less pushback on hit. I think adding the +1 on hit to that as well was a good solution there. It's definitely made it a much stronger move. I don't think this is as relevant anymore. even though of course Nina's overall game plan is to be as sticky as possible and stay close to the opponent. So I think it was an either or in that situation, either add a frame of advantage or change the pushback. So I'm happy with how that is. Increase the horizontal hitbox on down forward 2. So down forward 2 has notoriously bad range for a down forward 2, even in terms of the safe 15 frame down forward 2s in the game. That would be nice, just to bring it up to par with other characters, but at the same time I think a lot of it's about awareness of when you can use down forward 2 and when you can use reverse Ivory cutter, or when you may just have to use a 14 frame punish instead. So I've kind of given up on that changing, but you never know, it might. While running 1+2 in Rage Drive, not getting floated by low. So this is particularly frustrating, because if I've got my numbers right, it's frame 6 to frame... I think I have it written down here. Frame 6 to frame 17. No, frame 5 to frame 17. Frame 5 to frame 17, Nina's in an airborne state. But the first active frame is frame 20. So 5 to 17, she's supposed to go over low attacks, because she's in an airborne state. And then frame 18 and 19 and 20, she should be able to be hit by a low, and the frame 20 of course would trade. The problem is during that as well she can be counter hit by mids, and that's just how the mechanic works, unfortunately. But the problem here is during frame 5 to frame 17, some of those frames her hitbox is still so low that even things like toe kicks can hit her. So she's in a jumping state, but she's still getting hit by the lowest of lows in the game, and that's just it's pretty frustrating when it hits. So I'm all for this change at the moment. I think this is something that still needs to happen. Either if they raise the hurt box during this 5 to 17, or even better would be if they make it so she's not airborne until frame 20. So you can't be hit by a magic 4 while you're looking airborne and get counter hit launched, and at the same time be hit by a generic toe kick, because it really takes away from her approach game and her pressure game. 1+4 to give more reward on a crouching opponent. So this is good, and I want to talk about this one a little bit more in a moment. But I think something that Nina's really lacking is a reason to duck against her. Her lows aren't as threatening as many other characters, and it's more about poking and pestering. But this will give your opponent a real reason to block low. So I really like this change, and I want to talk more about Ivory Cutter in a moment. Down 3, down 4 to return. I mean, it's a really risky low. It's not going to add too much to a game plan, but at the same time it doesn't make sense, or I don't see the reason why they removed it. It would be annoying, but it wouldn't be strong. It wouldn't make her stand out in any way. If anything, it may just return some more of her wall Oki, which she was known for, at the cost of damage, which is something she's already having to do compared to other characters. I don't see that being a big deal whether it's in the game or not. It'd be nice, but we don't need a bloated roster, so it's probably not one of my top picks. Anyway, I think it's time that we look at what are my top picks, if I can remember them. So, first off, I want to talk about Ivory Cutter, because Ivory Cutter it drives me crazy, because it should be a good move, and it was a really good move in the past, but it's been broken down to a shell of what it was before. So for example, on hit, we look at this, it's 24 damage and +4. Let's remove that too, let's go guard wall. So it's 4 damage, then 20 damage. Now, if I do counter hit, it's still 4 damage, then 20 damage. So there's no counter hit buff here, which makes no sense. And let me explain a little bit more why it makes no sense. So on counter hit, damage is, well, it's usually about 120, right? So depending on the hit, it's going to give it a bit of a buff for the first hit. Generally 120. We've got 4 damage, 120. We should at least get a point of damage, right? If I look at a down 1, which is 5 damage, that's 120. Yeah? And that adds +1. So the possibility here is, well, maybe it's because it's so low damage that the 120% doesn't increase it. But unfortunately that's not true either. There's just no reason. Because if I look at down forward 1+2, 16 damage, because it's 6 and then 10. But normal hit, it's 5 and 10. We don't really have anything else that does 4, but why is that getting the 6? Why is that getting the 6? Is it just because it's so low that it should do more hits? It just doesn't make sense. Like, we don't really have anything else to compare it to, though. Yeah, they're all 5 damage. It's her lowest damage move in the game is her 1+4 or her back 1+4 first hit. So we can't really do much about that, can we? We can't test it beyond that because it's so low damage. But why is this move and this move not getting anything for counter hit properties? I don't know. People have talked about maybe giving 1+4 benefits on counter hit, and I mean that would be cool, as well as making it, even 1 point more damage. That would be cool, but I don't think that's what it needs either. I would like it to do the extra point damage, or ideally I'd actually prefer if they redistributed the damage, because if it is because it does such low damage that counter hit isn't a factor, that just seems a bit unfair for Nina, doesn't it? So what if we redistributed it, so instead of being 4 and 20, it was something like 8 and 16. So if it was 8 and 16, we'd be looking, hold on, what does 8 damage? Nothing does 8 damage, of course. Well, there we go. So, exact example here, it would do 1 point extra damage. So it wouldn't make the counter hit properties crazy, it would just change things a little bit. And the reason that I'd like the damage redistributed is because, how do I display this? We've got counter hit, CPU attack info. If we do this, you don't get much reward compared to a jab, because it only does 4 damage. Even though you're getting the +5 from Ivory Cutter, it's really not worth it, is it? It would be nice if you got a better trade there. It would make it better for just a checking tool, because you can use it to catch people each direction, and it would make them more afraid to challenge. Because at the moment, if we want a good trade, we have to do down forward 2. But of course, as we talked about before, down forward 2 has a lot of weaknesses. Nina maybe can't backdash it, but a lot of characters can. Yeah. So I think that would be great if we redistributed the damage so it at least did the same damage or around the same damage as a jab. Really, it should do more than a jab considering what it is. Considering it's 5 frames slower, right? And I'm all for making the game less jab focused and making it more about those unique, interesting looking moves, such as her Ivory Cutter. Okay, now the next thing about this is 1+4. I would 1+4 crouching opponent. So at the moment, the opponent crouches is exactly the same, right? And that's okay, but it's not much damage. It's not too threatening. And because Nina really has to poke away with her lows, and none of them do too much damage, and the only one that's threatening is insanely risky, I feel like we need to give the opponent a reason to be afraid of ducking. That isn't a risky move like that. So I mean that's pretty good for what it does, but I would like it if we had a safer check move like this. And that's what it used to do, right? It used to be a lot scarier because of what it did, even on block. So if we had some sort of property where on counter hit where it did something different, not on counter hit, sorry, on crouch, where it did something different. So maybe we could talk of like do this and they knock down into a face down, feet away position. Then that would be pretty scary, wouldn't it? It would be if they crouch, we get some kind of Oki. Even if there's nothing guaranteed, at least it would add to the mind game more, and it would mean that it's not just the same sort of crouch situation, the same low risk, low reward mix up that we always get. And it will give us much more reason to use Ivory Cutter in not only neutral but in pressure situations, opposed to using down forward 1-2 constantly. So I'd really like some kind of benefit to hitting a crouching opponent with that. My two requests are a damage redistribution, so there's more damage on the first hit, and just hitting the opponent better, getting a better reward if the opponent is crouching. Because this should be the move. I think this should be the move that we use to deter opponents from trying to crouch. So we can use this lots as a mix-up with our lows, so that we actually have a valid game or a reason for the opponent to be afraid of crouching. Because at the moment, I don't think her mids are that scary. They're more about setting things up, but they're not scary. Okay, the next one I want to talk about, reverse ivory cutter. We're going to do this very quick, okay? So with reverse ivory cutter, we've established, I talked before about how the first hit is shorter range, and it's got the same damage property issues as ivory cutter, so maybe they could redistribute the damage on that too. But what I would like to see is things like this not happening. Oops. We go sidestep right. That. So we've already established the second hit has better range, and it has better range in all ways. Even its tracking. Okay, how do I demonstrate this well? Come on. Come on. Okay, let's sidewalk. Oh. Okay, anyway, it does have better tracking than the first hit. See? There we go. So the fact that it whiffs on a sidestep here is just a little bit degrading, isn't it? And it's even that situational, it's kind of range specific. Yeah. So it shouldn't be a range issue when the move has better range and tracking than the first hit. So that's, I'd like that to improve. Okay, the next one is some more bugs, and there are a lot of bugs, don't get me wrong. These mostly what I want are bug changes or just reworking tools in little ways. So the next one I'm going to talk about is her geyser cannon. So geyser cannon, of course, has great range. However, we go back here, you've seen in my video recently, we're going to about 2.3. It should reach. If we go even further, it should reach. But if I do this, whoops. Oh, sorry. We wanted to hit even. It doesn't reach. So on hits, they backdash. They're not even getting 2.3, they're getting 2.1. So I can backdash past that and still almost get a hit. So about there, and it should still reach. However, it won't. It won't work. So that just feels bad. And they did try and fix it at one point, it just didn't fix it enough. So I'd like that changed. Another one is her back 2-2. So if we're looking at her back 2-2, 28 damage on counter hit. Also, it's 30 damage. That has the counter hit damage, right? But on normal hit, it's +5. On counter hit, it's +2. Why? Why? I think the reason is because if it's on counter hit, you should just complete the string. But there's no visual tell. So I think they should either give us a hit spark, so we know that's counter hit, which would be insanely good. But still a risk because it's high. So if you stuff it up, you can still get launched. Or just make it so it's +5 on counter hit. It's a good move. It's a move that we can use all the time. So we just want it +5 on counter hit, or at least some way to visually tell if it's a counter hit, something different. So even if we can't confirm the last hit, at least we can go, oh well, there's a different frame advantage. Ideally, if it's a counter hit, you should be rewarded opposed to, you gain 2 damage and you lose 3 frames. Ooh, I'd rather take those 3 frames, thank you. So yeah, I'd like that to be fixed. Okay, the last thing, I'm going to go to Leo just because Leo's easier to demonstrate this with. Leo, I don't know why, people have said as well that for some reason this is more frequent against Leo. But down back 2 loses range. So, when I got this to work. You can get it in situations like this. You can do it like so. The down back 2, it should reach really far, right? Like range 3 sort of thing. And then you do something like this, and you get the timing right. Maybe it was on hit. Yikes, was it on hit? Yeah, it was on hit. So, see, they're getting to range 2.7. I just demonstrated before, range 3 it works. Range, just past range 3. Come on, tree. So, about there. Yet if I do this on hit, they can backdash it. So that's just another issue where they shouldn't be able to backdash it. I think other characters can backdash it too, and I have to admit part of this may be less a Nina issue and more a character-specific issue to do with their hurt boxes while they move. Because if we look at Zafina, for example, who people have shown that the start of her backdash is kind of unparalleled. She can't backdash this. Not in this situation. But she can in other situations, and it does seem to lose some range. So, yeah. I think those are my top picks. So I have just a quick run through again. We've got reverse Ivory Cutter. So Ivory Cutter and reverse Ivory Cutter having the damage redistributed just so that on counter hit we actually get a little bit more damage from it. I would like some kind of extra reward on hitting a crouching opponent with Ivory Cutter. It doesn't have to be big, just something different. Something to deter the opponent from crouching. Because at the moment, I even worded it wrong before, at the moment there's not a great risk from crouching, and then the only lows that we can really, the lows aren't that good either, and we need some strong mids to sort of play with that actually do good damage or give some kind of threatening reward. I mean, like I said before, up forward 2-1's pretty good, but most of them are risky, and it's still punishable, and despite what people say, it's not really hit confirmable, it's twitch confirmable. So I would like Ivory Cutter to have a bigger play there. I would like the second hit of reverse Ivory Cutter to not randomly whiff or not occasionally get blocked if the first hit connects. Because that is infuriating, especially as a tool that is made as a block punish tool and as a whiff punish tool. You should not be disadvantaged from you should not be at a disadvantage from doing the correct move or making the correct read through block punishing or whiff punishing, especially if the first hit connects. It shows that you've done the right thing. You're not doing anything wrong, and it's not like this doesn't work off axis or anything. It should work on axis everywhere, because it does. It just doesn't sometimes. Then I would like an improvement to the Geyser Cannon and the down back 2 backdash issues, and I would like some kind of change to back 2 too. It's really strong as it is. I just don't want it to be +2 on counter hit when it should be +5 like it is on normal hit. That's all I really want there, but if they wanted to give it something stronger, then yeah, sure, give it some kind of visual tell so we can counter hit confirm it. But I don't need that. I don't think anyone needs that. It would just be a nice little buff. That's everything I need to go through. Once again, I want to reiterate that I'm not making this video to complain about how Nina is right now. I'm not making it to say we need buffs, because I don't really think we need buffs. We more need bug fixes. And the last thing I want is for every character to play exactly the same. I don't want Nina to be stronger in areas that are defined weaknesses, just like I don't want a character that does everything in every area. Kind of like what we saw with Leroy. That wasn't exciting when he first came out, was it? We don't want someone that excels in every range and has no weaknesses. We want characters with defined strengths and defined weaknesses. So let's work toward their archetypes. Let's keep their weaknesses intact, but also give them something unique about their move pool, something unique to make them fun to play and keep character loyalists around. Because at the moment, if your entire game plan is just down forward 1s, a low poke, and a generic launcher, why wouldn't we all just end up playing the exact same character? We don't want that. Anyway, I'm excited to see what comes in the patch in a couple of days, and I'm excited to see what else comes in Season 4 soon. So, thank you very much, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. Hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you next time. Catch you later.